Hi, today we're going to discuss levers in the muscular and skeletal system. So there are three classes of levers. Class number 1 lever, class number 2 lever, and class number 3 lever. So when we discuss levers, there are three players. Load, that exerts its force on the lever. The lever is the bone. Fulcrum is the joint. And the effort is the muscle. The third class lever is the most common in the human body. So when you look at the third class lever, the fulcrum is the joint or the pivot point over which you will try to rotate the load. So the load creates the resistance. So the resistance is right here. Just pretend that there is a dumbbell right here. So then you have this lever, fulcrum, and the most important thing here is a effort, and the effort is the muscle. So the effort exerts the force towards the origin. So we discussed before the differences between the insertion point and the origin point in the muscles. So I will briefly remind you that the insertion point is a more movable part of the body and the origin is the less movable part of the body. Well, it depends how you look at that, but the insertion point travels towards an origin point. And if you see that the muscle fibers run vertical, horizontally, let's say fusiform or parallel, so the muscle will contract along the length or the axis of these muscle fibers. So here's bicep brachii, here's your forearm, and right here we have a load. So load exerts the force down towards the gravity. So you have this insertion point of your effort, which is the muscle, and here you have the fulcrum, the pivot point. So basically the third class lever identify this way: fulcrum, effort, and the load. So the effort is sitting right next to the fulcrum, and obviously it depends how far away the effort, the insertion point, from the fulcrum. Right? If it would be a few millimeters further away from the fulcrum, it would be easier to rotate. And the third class lever had big disadvantages because you see the load is very far away from the effort. So you need to exert a lot of force, and the effort exerts the force, right, the positional force against the gravity. So the effort muscle needs to exert a lot of force in order to rotate this load. So for example, if you have the same type of person with the same muscle strength, but the person's lever, the bone, right, is longer, and you put the load here, and the insertion point and the muscle, as I already said, like let's say is the same, may create the same force, then this load would have to, and the load is pressing down towards gravity, so, and the muscles is working against the gravity, so then you have to travel longer distance. Here you have to travel shorter distance. So this person at advantages and this person at disadvantages. So obviously it depends on how long that lever. So but altogether the third class lever at the disadvantages, however, it is the most common type of lever in the human body. So the third class lever is fulcrum, effort, and the load. So the effort is in the middle, fulcrum is on one side, and the load is on another side. Here is the third class lever. Obviously, it's not just one group of muscle that doing the action, it's a group of muscles. Remember, we discussed prime mover, agonist, and antagonist, that is not shown here, and the synergies. So these muscles all together participate in this particular type of action. So also you can look at the third class lever schematically. Fulcrum, force, which is the effort, and the load. So now let's look at the class 2 lever. So for the class 2 lever, I'm gonna highlight triceps surae. So that's the calf muscle, so this is gastrocnemius with Achilles tendon and soleus muscle. So this is class 2 lever. So when the fulcrum, even though you see the joint is right here, right, that the entire body is rotated over this joint, but in reality the joint at the tiptoes, the joint at distal phalanges, so that's where the fulcrum is. It's hard to see it here, and load and the effort, they located right next one to another. So the effort is this group of muscles and the standard, calcaneus standard connected to calcaneus, and the actual load is right in the middle. So the load is in the middle in between the fulcrum and between the effort. Here it is hard to see that, but this picture shows from another perspective. So here's an effort, that's the muscle, triceps surae, gastrocnemius soleus muscle, and then there's the load, that's the body weight right here, and then there's a fulcrum. So here we can look schematically. So here's the fulcrum, the load, and here's the force. And this type of lever at high advantages, so it's very easy to carry the load. We can lift a lot with the second class lever. It's not that very common in the human body, but this type 2 lever at high advantages compared to lever number 3. Because for the lever number 3, the load is very far away from the effort, and the muscle and the effort needs to compensate for the length of the lever. So the class 2 lever, here's the fulcrum, here is the load, and right here you have an effort. You're raising your body against the gravity, but just because the load and the effort is located right next to one another and the fulcrum is not that far away from an effort, so it's easier for our body to raise no matter how big you are, so if you have no joint problems. So, and to remember the second class lever, load is always in the middle. Fulcrum, joint, and then there's effort. It doesn't matter where the fulcrum is or the effort, so the load is always in the middle, so it can look like that as well. So the class 1 lever, it's easier to remember. Fulcrum is always in the middle, load and effort on the opposite side, so it could be like that, a seesaw. So this is the first class lever, so let me highlight semispinalis capitis, or the splenius capitis, or the traps. Regardless of the group of muscles, so you see that the load is here at the chin, then the effort is right at the back at the group of these muscles or posterior muscles, and the actual fulcrum, the joint, is your spinal column. So with the first class lever, we have the effort, then you have a fulcrum, and then you have a load. So the load is kind of distal to the fulcrum and the effort, but then again, if you compare to the third class lever, the third class lever is still at high disadvantages just because the levers are very far away from the actual effort that will perform the work. So to remember first class lever, it's easier because fulcrum is always in the middle, and then there's effort and then the load on opposite side. So it could be like that, doesn't really matter. So it is better to understand rather to memorize, and the very important terminology that you have to know is the lever, fulcrum, and the effort. So the lever is the bone, a rigid bar that moves about a fixed pivot point. The fixed pivot point is your fulcrum, your joint, and the effort is applied by the force of the muscle. So I think that it was clear enough. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.